Imagine being a rookie officer on your very first night shift, when suddenly the inmates don't just test your nerves, they come for your life. Tonight's story isn't about survival training. It's about betrayal, blood, and a secret tunnel that was never supposed to exist. Stay with me, because the deeper we go, the darker it gets. Don't talk. The words slipped through the bars like smoke, barely audible yet sharp enough to slice through the stillness of the night. Officer Maria Santos froze where she stood, her gloved hand instinctively tightening around the grip of her holstered weapon. She had walked this block of cells thousands of times before, each patrol as predictable as the last. She knew the rhythms, the noises, the games the inmates played to get under her skin. But this was different. The voice carried urgency, not manipulation. A tremor of fear, not mockery. At first she thought she had imagined it, some trick of her tired mind after another long night on the graveyard shift. But then she saw his eyes. They weren't the glazed, hardened stares she had grown used to behind steel bars. These eyes were sharp, urgent, terrified. And what came next, what that prisoner whispered in the shadows, would not only save Maria's life but would expose a conspiracy so deep it would shake the very walls of the facility. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to tell you will leave you stunned. And before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and comment below where you're watching from. Now, let's step inside the Harris County Detention Center, late one night, where Officer Maria Santos's routine shift was about to turn into a fight for survival. Maria had been walking these corridors for 8 years. 8 years of concrete walls, flickering fluorescent lights and the metallic tang of recycled air. She knew every sound the place made, the clank of a distant door, the low hum of the ventilation system, the restless cough of inmates unable to sleep. To the untrained ear, it was chaos. To Maria, it was music she could read like sheet notes. Tonight, however, something was off. Something her instincts screamed was wrong. It started with silence. Too much silence. Cell Block D, home to some of the roughest, most unpredictable inmates in the facility, was never quiet. Usually there'd be snores, muttered curses, restless pacing. But tonight, nothing. It was as if the entire block was holding its breath, waiting for something. The sound of her own boots against the concrete echoed louder than usual, each step magnified by the hush pressing in from every cell. Her radio crackled on her shoulder, dispatch checking in with their usual monotone. She adjusted the volume and kept walking, letting the beam of her flashlight sweep across bars, bunks, and bodies curled beneath thin blankets. Everything looked routine, until she reached cell 47, Marcus Williams, lifer, armed robbery. Notorious on the outside, quiet as a ghost on the inside. In 8 years, Maria had barely spoken 20 words to him, and none of them had been confrontational. He read books, kept to himself, never joined fights or stirred trouble. If anything, he was the kind of inmate officers secretly appreciated, the kind that made their jobs easier. But tonight Marcus wasn't reading. He wasn't even pretending to sleep. He was sitting on his bunk, ramrod straight, sweat beading on his forehead, eyes locked on Maria like she was the only lifeline he had left. "Officer Santos," he whispered, his voice so low she almost missed it. "Don't talk. Just listen." Every fiber of Maria's training screamed at her to shut this down. Inmates didn't get to set the rules. Inmates didn't get to dictate the terms of a conversation. Still, something in Marcus's voice, desperation, raw and unfiltered, stopped her from reaching for the radio. "There's going to be an ambush," he continued. His hands gripped the edges of his bunk like anchors. "They're waiting for you at the end of the hall. 3 of them. They've got weapons." Maria's heart lurched, a cold spike of adrenaline shooting through her chest. She glanced down the corridor. The long stretch looked as empty as always. Sterile lights casting harsh shadows between the rows of bars. "But shadows could lie. Why are you telling me this?" she whispered before she could stop herself. "Because you're different," Marcus said. His voice cracked, but his gaze never wavered. "You treat us like human beings. You don't deserve what they're planning." Her radio crackled again. "Dispatch." She had 30 seconds to answer, or they'd send backup. But if Marcus was right, backup might trigger the ambush early. She needed more information. "Who's waiting for me?" "Rodriguez, Thompson, and the new guy, Jackson. They've been planning it for weeks. Rodriguez has a shiv. Thompson's got a sock full of batteries. Jackson." Marcus swallowed hard. "Jackson has something worse." Maria's stomach tightened. Rodriguez and Thompson she knew well enough. Both were violent. Both had attacked officers before. But Jackson, the new transfer, his file was a litany of violence, assaults, riots, disciplinary actions stacked high. What does Jackson have? Marcus hesitated, his voice breaking when he finally spoke. A key, a master key. He's planning to unlock cells once they're done with you. It won't just be an attack. It'll be a riot. Maria's blood turned cold. A riot in Block D could spread through the facility in minutes. Dozens of violent offenders loose, staff overwhelmed, lives lost. She'd trained for riot protocols, but those were simulations. Neat scenarios with clear outcomes. This was real. This was chaos knocking at the door. Where did he get the key? That's the worst part, Marcus whispered, leaning closer. He didn't get it by accident. Someone on the outside helped. Someone with access. This isn't just about you. It's about the whole system. Her radio crackled again, more insistent this time. Unit 7, please respond. Maria's pulse hammered. She was running out of time. Trust a convicted felon? Or follow protocol and risk walking straight into a trap? She studied Marcus's face in the dim light. In 8 years, he had never once lied to her. Never once manipulated her for favors. His record in the block was clean. And now he was risking his life to warn her. If the others found out he'd spoken, he wouldn't survive the week. Her radio squawked again. Unit 7, immediate response required. Are you code 4? She took a deep breath, forced her voice steady, and pressed the button. Unit 7 to dispatch. All clear on Block D, just had to deal with a minor medical issue. Continuing patrol, silence. Then, copy that, Unit 7, report back in 20 minutes, 20 minutes. That was all she had. Maria leaned closer to Marcus. If what you're saying is true, I need details. Where are they waiting? Rodriguez is in the supply closet near the checkpoint. Thompson's crouched behind the water fountain at the corner. Jackson's by the emergency exit, the blind spot in the cameras. Maria cursed under her breath. The blind spot. She'd been complaining about it for months, but budget cuts meant it was never fixed. And now it was the perfect hiding place for a man with a master key. Why tonight? Because tomorrow's the transport. High-value inmates. If they cause chaos tonight, they'll have leverage when the buses roll in. Hostages. Maybe even a chance to escape. Her gut clenched. This wasn't just personal, it was coordinated. And then Marcus dropped the final bomb. They picked you on purpose. Because of your brother. Detective Santos. He arrested Rodriguez's brother in that drug bust last month. This is payback. Maria's vision tunneled. Her brother Carlos, husband, father of 3, her rock, was now in the crosshairs. And if they knew her schedule, her route, even where she lived, then her whole family was in danger. Her hands shook. She gripped the radio, her only lifeline, but didn't press the button. She couldn't, not yet. Marcus, she whispered. If things go bad, if I don't make it out, tell investigators everything. I will, Marcus said firmly. But you're going to make it. You're smarter than they think. Maria glanced down the hallway. Somewhere in the shadows, 3 predators waited. Somewhere in the security office, corrupt eyes watched. But she had something they didn't expect. She knew. Is there another way out? She asked. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. The maintenance tunnel. Behind the vending machines near cell 22. It leads to Block C. But it's risky. Rodriguez's allies are housed nearby. If they see you, it's better than walking into a trap, Maria muttered. She checked her watch. 18 minutes left. Time to move. She crept toward the vending machines, every step echoing like a gunshot. Sweat dripped down her back despite the chill. As she neared cell 19, a sound froze her blood. Metal scraping concrete. Someone was awake, pacing Tommy Valdez, Rodriguez's closest ally. Aggravated assault, already attacked 2 guards before. He was whispering now, agitated, excited, preparing. Then silence. Maria held her breath. Then Tommy's voice cut through the dark. Evening, Officer Santos. Working late tonight? Her heart stopped. He knew she was there. She forced her voice steady. Just making rounds, Valdez. Everything quiet tonight? Tommy chuckled. Oh, it's quiet. But I got a feeling things are about to get interesting. She inched closer to the vending machines. The access panel was just in sight. 3 more steps. That's nice, Valdez. Sweet dreams, but Tommy wasn't done. See, I've been wondering what would happen if something went wrong on your little walks. What if you needed help and nobody could hear you scream? Maria's hand twitched toward her radio. Not yet. Valdez, I think you should get back to bed. Regret? He laughed. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. Then came the sound that shattered her fragile calm. A soft click. A lock turning. A door op. Maria pulled the access panel closed behind her, plunging herself into total darkness. The sound of metal scraping against metal echoed faintly in her ears, the last screw rolling away on the concrete outside. She pressed her palms against the cool ground and steadied her breath. The tunnel smelled of rust, mildew, and dust that hadn't been disturbed in years. It was barely wide enough for her shoulders. Her vest scraped the sides as she crawled, inch by inch, deeper into the narrow passage. Behind her, the muffled voices of the inmates filled the corridor. "She went in the panel!" Tommy's voice rang out high with excitement. "Get her out!" Rodriguez barked. "We can't let her warn anyone!" The sound of pounding fists rattled against the vending machines. Metal groaned, but the machines were bolted to the floor. For now, it held. But Maria knew it was only a matter of time before they figured out another way. Her flashlight was still clipped to her belt, but she didn't dare turn it on yet. Any glow might leak through cracks in the panel and give her away. So she crawled blind, the tunnel swallowing her in suffocating darkness. Every scrape of her boots echoed like thunder, every shallow breath amplified in the silence. She had been through tactical training, simulations of riots, escape attempts, hostage scenarios. They drilled her to stay calm, to think through the chaos. But no training room had prepared her for crawling through a pitch-black tunnel while armed convicts hunted her. Images of her brother Carlos flashed in her mind. His easy smile at family, barbecues, his 3 kids running circles around him in the backyard. The thought of men like Rodriguez and Jackson threatening him, threatening her niece and nephews, made bile rise in her throat. They won't touch him, she told herself. They won't touch his kids. But deep down, she knew they already had. The tunnel angled down slightly, forcing her elbows to dig deeper into the dirt floor. Her knees ached with each crawl forward. The smell of mold grew stronger. Somewhere ahead, faint light glowed, a weak bulb flickering through a grate. She inched toward it, desperate for orientation. When she finally reached the grate, she pressed her face against it and peered through. The maintenance tunnel emptied into Block C's main corridor. It was quieter here, only 2 guards usually assigned at night. If she could get their attention, without alerting the inmates, she might stand a chance. But then a new sound drifted through the metal. Footsteps. Not behind her. Ahead. In the tunnel. Maria froze, heart thundering. She pressed her cheek harder against the grate, listening. The footsteps were soft, deliberate, crawling closer. The scrape of fabric against dirt. Someone else was in the tunnel with her. Her hand slid to her holster. She drew her weapon, the weight familiar in her hand, the barrel pointing toward the darkness. "Officer Santos." The voice was low, mocking, echoing down the cramped tunnel. "Jackson. You didn't think you were the only one who knew about this escape route, did you?" Maria's breath caught. How the hell had he gotten in so fast? Unless the keys he had opened more than just cell doors. Maintenance access. "Put the gun down," Jackson taunted, his voice bouncing off the walls. "This tunnel's too tight. You fire in here, the ricochet might take your pretty head clean off." Maria clenched her jaw, finger tightening on the trigger. She couldn't see him, but she could hear the grin in his voice. "You know, they told me you'd be easy," he went on, "that you walk these halls like you're untouchable. But I've been watching you. You're careful, smart. Almost makes me wish this wasn't personal. Almost." Her throat tightened. "What do you want, Jackson?" "To watch you bleed," he said simply. The words slithered through the dark like snakes. She shuffled backward slightly, the tunnel walls scraping her vest. Her radio was still clipped to her shoulder, but the angle made it impossible to reach without holstering her gun. Behind her, faint banging echoed from the vending machine panel. Rodriguez and the others were still trying to pry their way in. If they managed it, she'd be trapped between them and Jackson. Think, Maria. Think. She spotted the grate again, the weak light of Block C just inches away. She could try to kick it out, drop into the corridor, and pray the guards nearby weren't compromised too, but it would make noise. A lot of noise. "Where do you think you're going?" Jackson hissed, his footsteps crawling closer. "You're not crawling out of here alive."